Coming up today on Locked On at Texas Tech, fuzzy math, finance degrees, and an abacus in the mix on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And thanks as always for making us your first listen with the only Chris Level. I'm Casey Cowan. Chris, great to be back with you once again and back into a conversation that has generated, well, quite a bit of reaction from the listening, viewing audience and or consumers of, say, Big 12 sports, Big 12 football, Big 12 basketball, Big 12 underwater basket weaving, whatever your flavor is. And that relates to the attempt, the effort, the mission of one Brett Yormark to generate revenue. Now, a few days ago, we got into a conversation regarding private equity investment. We also got into a conversation about naming rights for the league. And I want to get into some feedback from the audience today, Chris, with you, because I kind of was figuring, sort of all over the place like it typically is. But some have some very strong feelings about this. Not many or hardly any all that warm and fuzzy about this. I don't know. I'm sure you've probably been in discussions in person with Tech fans or friends or whatever it might be about these things. And I don't know what your survey has resulted in, but there are a lot opposed to this. Are you hearing some similar things?
Yeah, I think it's all over the place from like the feedback that I've gotten, and here's what it goes back to. There's and I say some. There's a lot of unknown here. That's the part where I think it's hard for us to make a decision on or have a take when you don't exactly know what comes with it, or what does all this entail? Again, the devil is in the details, and and what are the ramifications of doing this versus not doing this? But I've heard, I think there's a lot of it has elicited an opinion, I think, and it has gotten people's emotions, and this is what sports or things that people are passionate about, this is what it does. Don't mess with my uniform. Don't mess with the name of my league. Don't mess with this or that. Like I have this happy place in my brain of how I view this stuff, and don't be tricking it up. And so people are all over the place, and pride gets in the way. I think some people say, competition gets in the way, where you're like, I'm blinded by, I want to be where the SEC and the Big Ten, by all means necessary. Screw it. I don't care what comes with it. I want to be able to pay NIL like they do, and I want to be able to pay my coaches like they do, and I want to be able to cover up a mistake like those leagues do if they make the wrong hire. Because these are all the kinds of things that come into play here. So
are you quoting Trev Alberts, A&M athletics director, now when you talk about that? Because he had a pretty hilarious quote recently talking about, the money is not the problem. It's the expense of these mistakes that they've made over the years. That's the problem. And I thought, well, who are you talking about? Like Jimbo Fisher, Kevin Sumlin?
And he's in charge of an athletic department that is he just had to lay off a whole bunch of athletic department workers. What was that, 2 months ago? Yeah. When they knew that they were going to have to start paying players, and he's maybe had to go to several donors and go, "Hey man, we need help." And they're like, "Dude, we're paying for like four football head coaches, man. Kick rocks, Trev."
Well, that's kind of
good luck.
That's kind of telling, isn't it, about the situation whenever you've got one of the two most well-financed athletics departments in the nation, both of those being in South Texas, by the way, when I'm talking about the two, and you're laying people off. I mean, it's kind of concerning, I would think, for the others who are not in the category of being better financed than the kingdom.
But it wasn't enough for him to go, "Hey, I played at Nebraska. It's my alma mater." And when A&M called, it wasn't enough for him to go, "You know what? I think that's he made some decision, and so I think
I don't
that's
know
what's
about
going
this,
on.
guys. Well, Trev, we got about $250 million in the coffers every year for the athletics budget. What do you think? All right, guys, I know about this. I'll be there by 5. Where are we going to eat? All right, let's get into some of the consumer feedback, i.e., our audience's feedback, because yeoman, layman, whatever, like me, and I won't necessarily put you in this category, Chris, because you may have a full grasp of these things. I don't know, but I know I don't. You hear about the opportunity to gather additional revenue and what it could do for your league, what it could do for potentially closing the gap, quote unquote, at least in theory, with the Big Ten and the SEC. But sometimes I wish like I knew a Texas Tech finance major or someone with a finance degree from Texas Tech to answer questions like this. So that's when, like most wise men do when they're in search of wisdom, that's when I head to the YouTube comment section. And some of the feedback that I've found there, I've actually enjoyed taking in and digesting. One of the early returns came from our guy, Justin Dorsey, who just said very succinctly, private equity is a nightmare in my humble and jaded experience. So that was one viewer or listener weighing in. And then I also saw this comment from David Henry, who says, pardon me, I'm getting choked up. Sorry, David. David Henry saying, I am a 1994 Texas Tech graduate with a finance degree, and I want everyone to think about 2 denigrating money amounts to Texas Tech. The first is this all-state naming rights. This is complete and utter BS. Here's why the math doesn't work for any member of the Big 12. $50 million per 16 schools over 10 years. This comes out to be $312,000 per year, and Tech doesn't need that money. We can cover that easily. He says, onward to this BS, your mark private capital idea. Let's assume that going forward, each Big 12 school has to repay 20% forever. $1 billion divided by 16 teams equals $62.5 million in total. But don't forget, Texas Tech has to pay $12.5 million back every year. This makes no sense, period. That for instant gratification, open quote, close quote, we will run out of that money that we just ran out of in roughly 5 years. Once we run out of that private capital, quote unquote, we will have to continue to pay every year $12.5 million. He says that is why we need to stay clear of this poop emoji money. And that is a direct quote from the comment. We don't need this smoke and mirrors BS that your mark is selling, period. Everyone think about the damage that is coming our way and to every school in this league. And he adds, have a great day. David, thank you for chiming in. I did not double check David's math. I wanted to put it on the screen for everybody, but it was just a little too much to fill up the screen. But I got to tell you, he is not alone in this kind of feedback, though his was very detailed, which I appreciate. But there seems to be, Chris, a general consensus that you better be careful what you're playing with and what devil you're making a deal with, I guess, in one simple way to describe it.
On the because these are two different conversations, two different deals. I guess it is my understanding that the naming rights to the league, this is $50 million a year for to the league in total for what I'm going to say is like a 6 to 8 year, maybe a 7 to 10 year commitment. That's where the math actually it's going to be closer to 3 to 4 million a year per school. That's and I'm probably naive, and so people will pounce on this comment that I'm about to make. Essentially, I'm going to phrase it this way: it's free money. Like what have you had to do to earn this? You just sat here and took it. It's unless we find out. The company Allstate. By the way, I think that I think that we all pay too much for insurance. There's a lot of these insurance commercials that have just it floods my TV, and I do think Allstate actually was one of the highest advertisers in just college football in general over the last 5 to 7 years.
I believe it.
You know, yeah, they not just commercials, but the nets behind the field goal. I mean, you know, all this stuff, the Sugar Bowl. I mean, on and on. They are heavily invested in this audience, and so I don't. That's not who I insure with. But maybe if you are, maybe you're paying too much, and this is why. I don't know. But I.
So they can sponsor the field goal net.
They would not. If it was $312,000 per school, this isn't a deal you're doing.
Yeah.
It's I think going to come out to, I'm going to ballpark it as like 2.5 to 4 per school per year of
Gotcha.
the term.
Yeah.
And I just don't. Again, I'd kind of like to know what else comes with it. I mean, I don't care what you call the title game. I don't care what, and this is why I also have kind of been led to believe, and I think this is important to note.
First, today's episode brought to you by eBay Motors. And eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and keep that ride or die ride on the road, or elevate your car's game to the next level of performance. Superchargers, exhaust kits, LED headlights, roof racks, and accessories of all kinds to fit your style. Whether it's power, speed, or design you're into, eBay Motors has you covered with over 122 million parts to perfectly fit what you need. Just head over to ebay.com/motors now, where you'll always find exactly what you're looking for, and at no risk because of eBay's guaranteed fit. Your part is guaranteed to fit just right every time, or your money back, keeping you burning rubber and not burning cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to keep your ride or die on the road and moving your life forward at ebay.com/motors. eBay guaranteed fit, only available to U.S. customers, eligible items only, exclusions do apply.
This is why I also have kind of been led to believe, and I think this is important to note, I've been led to believe the reason that the number 12 is so significant in these conversations, and they want to change the word big, is because 12 is what the consulting firms feel like that this is what everybody associates your league with. Like when I see that, I know exactly what it means. And I think most importantly to note, there's not a lot of rebranding you have to do because everybody has already got the 12 on everything. On the field, on the court, on whatever you come up with, on the coach's polo, that's what, you know, and I don't think that would be messed with. I don't think.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I think that part is, this is why I say you just conduct business as normal for the most part, and like you're just cashing in the 3 to 4 mil a year. So I hope I didn't misguide anybody the first time. That's my understanding of this based on everything that I've read and people that I've talked to. The private equity deal, it's a loaded conversation. I get it. That's the one that I think is a bit trickier. I think that here's where I think that was it David you said? It was the
David
finance major in 94? Yeah.
That's
Guns
right.
up, David. And I appreciate you studying finance. And I graduated in 96, so we're close to the same age. I don't think this is a forever proposition. I think this is it's a limited time frame from the standpoint of, I think here's all this money we give you right now. We are going to take 20% off the top when you agree to your next media rights deal. The end. And I think that's when everybody that is my understanding of it.
Yeah.
And it's not a forever. I think where there are lots of questions, and I have these questions too. Brett Yormark is presenting these deals. He also talks about a lot about expansion, or we're open for business and all these things. I think we're naive to think that there may be something that happens with the ACC. In fact, something's going to happen. I've said that on a previous episode. You can Sharpie it, man. That league will not continue in its current form. If you are able to add to your league or something, you want to do something different and you're not stuck at 16. Now, as we get into the naming rights to the conference, or now we get into private equity, what does that do to those possibilities? And I could see that's going to have to be in these deals. The fine print is going to say, okay, if we want to do this, this is what happens. If this happens, we need to do this. And I think that's important to note, because in some ways you could look like a much prettier date to the prom, depending on how this was structured, or you could be, like, oh man, she looks like she's broken out and needs some,
she's got a little Cincinnati on her face.
Yeah, or he's got something on the end of his nose, and he's not. Yeah, I think
had a Houston spring up overnight.
Yeah, that's right. But I think that is important to note too, because I think as it relates to the ACC, how this is structured, how this is set up, if you were to agree to this, I think that's important to note. But Callan, here's ultimately the question, man. I get all the questions and the naysaying about it, because we're not. There's just a lot of the details that we're not privy to. I'm just asking aloud, and we're talk radio guys, right? We
Sure.
kind of talk things out and all that. My other question would be, and we may never ultimately know, but I really like to know, for purposes of, am I in favor of this or not in favor of it? What happens if you don't do these deals? What's at stake here? I mean, is this because private equity money was offered to the Pac-12 about 5 to 6 years ago? They researched it. They looked at it. I don't think it was the same firm. I don't know the details there. The academia of the Pac-12 thumbed their nose up at it, and they declined. Now there's no Pac-12. I'm not suggesting that if you don't do this, then you're extinct too. It's just worth pointing out. You have a brand new media rights deal. You've got short-term stability for sure. I don't think there's any concern there. But and I'll tell you what else is coming. Within the next year or two, you're going to see, and for people that are purists or whatever, this is happening. You're going to get patches on these uniforms, a la the NBA, a la, and this is going to become fairly commonplace. And I think this will be a school by school basis. And I think there are people in that space that will tell you that's a significant chunk. That I think there's people that will tell you that could be as much as $5 to $8 million a year per school, or whatever you're looking to do. And again, some schools will maybe be worth more than others, but I don't know. But that's coming at some point. That may be a year or two away before they approve that, but it's going to happen. I'm telling you right now. That's going to be the next revenue stream. And so
before you move on from that, Chris, do you think that there will be anyone out there that's saying, we don't need it that bad? Like, I'm thinking like the richest of the rich, Notre Dame, University of Texas.
Absolutely, I do.
That some will still say, we're not putting that logo or putting anything on there.
Yeah, there will be some that don't operate that way, or that in the league, whether it be league wide or school by school. But I think that if you're the athletic director, the school president, and you go, hey, we get it. However, do you want to just go ahead and make a donation to us so we don't have to do this? If so, then we'll keep the uniform clean. I mean, there will be some give and take there. And again, it depends on what expenses are starting to pop up.
That would be really interesting from a conference-wide perspective, because although everyone in the Big Ten or the SEC, every member institution is cashing a bigger check than those not in those conferences, Rutgers is not cashing as big a check as Ohio State. Mississippi State is not cashing as big a check at the end of the day, in summation, I'm saying, as Alabama. So for a league to say, you can't have that extra $5 or $6 million or whatever to put a Raising Cane's logo on your shirt, that'd be pretty interesting, because I guarantee you some of those institutions are not rich enough. And it's kind of funny to think that anybody's rich enough to say, no, I'm good on more money. We're talking college sports after all, but you know what I'm saying? I mean, Illinois, what the examples would be to say, no, actually I know we're getting a Big Ten check, but no, we would still like to have this other $6, $7, $8 million. I
think that'll be an institution by institution. I don't know if a league, I don't know, I could be wrong, but I think that'll be an NCAA says that this is now allowed, and then that's a institution by institution decision process. And again, goes back to kind of what I said. I mean, think about these things. You know some of the most valuable sports franchises in the world. If you ever see that Forbes list, what are they? it's the Premier League, the soccer clubs, football, whatever. Their jerseys are almost, there's no limitations on it. They're almost solely the sponsor. I mean, yeah, you get a little swoosh or the Adidas or whatever else, and you're like, is this Liverpool? Is this Man U? Is this Chelsea? I'm not even really sure. And the soccer club symbol is fairly small.
Yeah, like a
but
patch.
Exactly. But it's the company that is, and these franchises are worth billions. Like they're right up there with the Dallas Cowboys. And I mean, that's where, and so they obviously aren't, and it's not hurting them. And those are worldwide audiences too. I mean, the numbers for the Premier League are insane as far as TV and what they're worth and all that stuff. And so I just think that the NCAA will come in and they'll put it like the NBA did. They'll say, you can do this. However, this is the specs on it. It's got to be small, subtle, but you're going to see it for 3 or 4 hours on every football game and every basketball game. Every time, they show that, it's going to be right there on the shoulder or whatever, right there, probably by the league logo and whatever else you're doing. But that's coming. But as far as the private equity thing, I do feel like there would be a term on this. This isn't a forever. And it's really based on your next media rights deal, which is what they're gambling on. And that's what the articles are telling you, that the information that the Big 12 is getting is that it's undervalued. We think we can get a lot more. And that's what the folks at potentially Luxembourg feel like that is accurate. And like, we're going to gamble on that. And so let's give them some money, and then we'll cash it out whenever, they are able to seek this deal. I don't know what information everybody's getting to base their judgments off of this. And there's a plenty of very, very smart, intelligent people, not just with Texas Tech, business-oriented, financial, all that stuff at every institution and conference level too, that you're gonna be able to make a really good decision. And again, it's okay, you get this, but this is what you're conceding. And I do think that the private equity folks will, at least at the minimum, get a vote. I don't think their vote will be worth more than anybody else's, but I do think they'll get a semi say so, or a vote, a thumbs up, thumbs down, whatever. So anyway, that's kind of where we're at, Cowan, but pretty fascinating conversation.
And mixed in with all those smart people just going based off of human nature, there'll be a few stupid ones too that you have to combat and get around or get over. So-and-so's son or whoever had to be on the board because daddy wanted this or mama wanted that or grandpa said this. So you know how it goes. Hopefully those will not carry the day. Chris, before we wrap up the episode, I am curious, without this kind of outside the box thinking, is there a reality for the Big 12 conference to continue to compete with those others? Because I really feel like it sort of seems like this genteel, antiquated way of thinking, where previously you'd be like, all right, well, maybe we've got another round of realignment. When the ACC crumbles, we're going to strengthen our league in this way. We get a new media rights deal on the other side of that, and we'll see what that number is, and we'll hope for the best. And that still may be possible, I guess, but it sort of seems like without these outside the box options or considerations, that sort of still is the only route to try and make more money, but it'll never be enough to top those who have consolidated blue bloods, obviously, in their league. So I just wonder, even if it's not anything we've even described, I don't even know what else could be rolling around in Brett Yormark's head. But if it's not private equity or naming rights or whatever it might be, wouldn't you agree there has to be something beyond what we've been accustomed to all these years that Brett Yormark is going to have to come up with for the Big 12 to continue to compete? And I don't even know how I define compete, to be honest with you, but to remain in the same universe as the Big Ten and the SEC.
Because it's worth asking this question too: is revenue been the biggest reason why you haven't won a national championship? I think I would say, yeah. I mean, I think everybody has to ask themselves that question. Like, is more money going to equate winning? Well, if everybody's getting the same amount of money, I mean, again, as you said, hadn't helped Rutgers or Vanderbilt or or Mississippi State or
the
Northwestern, the Aggies, all that
They've
stuff.
got more than anyone. I mean,
I think it allows you to, again, I just wish somebody would tell me, hey man, if we don't take this money, this is what will happen. Because what's interesting is a lot of the new Big Ten schools, like the Pac-12 members that are joining it, the two ones in Los Angeles, and then obviously Oregon and University of Washington. A lot of the conversation there is like, well, we're going to have to use a lot of this new money, this extra money, just for travel purposes, because we're now a long way away from what there's no Big 12 problem as far as travel for the most part, because the ones you added, are it makes a lot of sense. And so I just wish you could get a grasp of, I mean, are we talking like you're going to have to eliminate sports or certain sports if you don't, because you now have a new $22 million revenue sharing bill due every year, and we're going to have to take a long, hard look at staffing or these sports or whatever. I mean, and if that's the case, then I'd take a long listen to wanting to take that money so you could kind of keep. Yeah. But again, you just don't know. You just ultimately don't know, and I think it's and everybody's going to have a different opinion on this. There's the financial part, there's the pride part, there's the common sense part. Then there's also the survival part. I mean, there's what. If we don't put our best foot forward, and again, the basically being able to cover up your mistakes, that is just one of the things that the SEC and the Big Ten have been able to do for years. And if they make a wrong hire or if things aren't going the way they want, they can immediately fix it. Whereas other schools have to say, you know what, we're going to stick with this coach and ride it out much longer so we don't have a buyout because we can't afford it. And I think that's an interesting component. You don't want to take a bunch of money so you're like, I can get sloppier with hiring. That's not what I'm saying. However, that is a byproduct right, of you having more flowing in. Is like if something doesn't go well, and I don't know how much more money you still owe like a Matt Wells or even a Cliff Kingsbury, or because I mean they were owed money when they were let go. And it wasn't just nothing. I mean, there was millions of dollars at stake there. I don't, so I wish you just wish you could make a good take if you knew all the info, but we just don't.
I do think there is a very real possibility or even probability that you'll see some non-revenue sports as casualties of this new era. And of course, when you're talking non-revenue sports, you're talking all but two in some locations and all but one, that being football, in many other locations. So that could get to be a very scary conversation for those who are interested in and support those other non-revenue sports. That's why I always thought it was so dangerous for those athletes to be crowing about collective bargaining and unionization and all these things. Be careful what you wish for, but we're already down the tracks from that. So bring on the horror show and let's see what actually is going to be involved in this car crash, I guess. We'll just hope for the best. All right. Appreciate those thoughts there from the audience. Keep them coming. Of course, the best way to help us grow the show is to comment anything below on YouTube. So do that, finance graduate or otherwise. I'll take some fuzzy math just written out in the dirt parking lot if you need to do it that way, whatever it is, or maybe an abacus on hand. Whatever it takes. Chris, appreciate your perspective as well. As always, enjoyed it, man.
Yeah, and I will say this. I think the name change for the league is coming. I'm not sure about private equity yet. I think there's a lot of questions about that. But get ready for the old patch, whether we want to go Southwest Airlines or AT&T or J Salsa, whatever you and I want to come up with. The Cow and Cattle Company logo. I mean, it belong right there. I mean, it'll be a good chunk of change right there on the old jersey. But that stuff's coming. So yeah, I get all the questions. It's a new day, but this is kind of where we're at, man. It's commercialism. This is it's been creeping in for years and years, and it's now here. And who's to say this is where it stops? I mean, everything's for sale, right?
There's no question about it.
We would love a lead sponsor for the lot, right? Locked On Texas Tech, man. And we're no doubt. I'll put whatever logo on my shirt you want me to. If that's
Emirates Airlines. Are you interested in Locked On Texas Tech?
I'd be happy to. I'd even fly coach or consider it.
Back to the Premier League.
That's
Joey
right.
McGuire's forehead available for tattoo branding at some point in the future. You never No. All right.
That's right.
But we hope you'll be here to find out with us whenever whatever is to come takes place. All right. Thank you, Chris. And thank you all for being out there. We appreciate you. As always, get subscribed on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts so you never miss an episode. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we hope to see you back for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.